And I looked up and I started being connected with several business owners, several nonprofit leaders that looked like they were in the same place that I was in, like operating out of passion in their own pocket. So peace, it's Dwan Dandridge from Black Leaders Detroit, and today I'm going to share a little bit of my why. I've been asked by some friends that know me well to share this story on multiple occasions, and people want to know why I would start an organization that was geared towards providing funding for Black-led organizations in the city of Detroit. So about 15 years ago, I used to operate a transition house that's focus was targeting young men in a specific community that wanted to stop selling drugs. If you are not familiar with that world at all, many of the people that sell drugs sometimes do it out of necessity, right? Like sometimes they don't have a place to stay, and if you're staying in a place where that's what's going on in that place, then after a while, you're going to be expected to do what it takes to keep that place running. So what we would do, a good friend of mine, we would go to the local drug houses in the community. We'd actually knock on the door and we'd talk to whoever was running the show there. And we would simply say to them, look, if you have anybody in here that is not set up for this life and not geared for this world, or if you got anybody in here that's tired, send them with us. We got a place for them. We got a place for them to stay. They'll have housing, they'll have food, and we would actually go out and take them out and teach them a trade. At the time I was doing construction, so I would take them out with me, teach them a skilled trade, and if I didn't have any work, I would connect them with some other contractors that I had good relationships with, and they would take them out with them. And it was amazing. We would have daily prayer, daily Bible study. If you don't know, most of the things that inspire me, I'm always inspired by my faith, especially when it comes to me doing anything worth mentioning. So we would have daily prayer and Bible study. We would go out and work, teach them a trade, take it on different jobs. There were many challenges. We grew together. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about patience, and people need to be patient with me. I definitely had some of that savior mentality during that journey, and I knew in my mind I knew what was best for people more than they did, and I had a lot of assumptions. That's not necessarily the point that I want to make in sharing this story. I want to talk to you about what would make me, what's the connection between Black Leaders Detroit and that, right? So in running that facility and that place, it was all funded from, my family's bank account. We didn't have any grants coming in. We didn't have access to any other resources financially. And after about 5 years of operating it and, paying the utilities and, making sure that food was in the place and, putting a new roof on it, and new furnace and different repairs, right? It just, wasn't really something that we could sustain out of our own personal budget. And I wasn't aware of different access to different capital that's out there. So, we ended up closing the doors, and I was really hurt for a while because, there were, people that I wanted to tap into and I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to make it an awkward thing between me and friends. And then there was times that I asked and, some people came through and some people didn't. And without them even knowing, I kind of held grudges. So, after closing the doors, I really had a rough time. And somebody that is get my energy from figuring out different ways to serve, I kind of started to shrink back from serving. And I started to think that, it's best if I just focus on my family and I'm just concerned about, what happens with my own small group that's connected to me biologically, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think that I'm called to that. I don't think, really any of us are called to that. But, that's me and my thoughts. I would say that, after a few years, came out of that space and, got back into different, like, serving opportunities. And I looked up and I started being connected with several business owners, several nonprofit leaders that looked like they were in the same place that I was in, like operating out of passion in their own pocket. And they're running some amazing programs that we really need in Detroit. And we're better because they're here. And the thought of them needing to close their doors because they didn't have access to the funding took me back to that place when I had to shut the building down. And I just don't want to see that happen to us again. I don't want to see any of these programs have to close their doors. So that is the reason that I want to start Black Leaders Detroit, and I want to see it survive. I want to see it thrive, not for the sake of the organization at Black Leaders Detroit, but because of those businesses that are out there making a difference every day. And I just think that we can't afford for them to close their doors. So that's my why. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you. Peace.